Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made a pointless appearance in New York City yesterday. Yes, oh yes, they held this seminar. It was the first one for the Archewell Foundation talking about mental health and social media. But did we learn anything about mental health and social media? I would argue that we did not, because there was a crucial factor missing in any of the reporting on this event, any of the videos on this event. There is something so key here that Harry and Meghan didn't include. It makes their entire appearance, pulling families in from all over the country to talk about some of the most tragic aspects of their lives, completely and utterly devoid of meaning. And that's because Harry and Meghan made this event all about themselves, despite what they proclaim this to be, because of how they structured it, because of what they released about it. All you heard was about Harry and Meghan, and that is a tragedy. And if these people claim to care about the mental health of children and claim actually to want to save lives, then this project, this event, was completely and utterly pointless. And I'm gonna tell you why. And that's not to take away any of the tragedy that the families there experience, but that's because they decide to align with two people who are more interested in promoting themselves than protecting others and helping families. So that is what we are going to talk about today on Royal News Network. This is a channel that provides compelling royal commentary about the latest news, sometimes a little bit of the drama going on behind the scenes. My name is Brittany, and I also run not only this channel, but I have a newsletter, a fashion channel, a membership. And if you want the link to any of my jewelry down below, I do have that as well. And before we go into all of this with Harry and Meghan, let's touch a little bit on Catherine and William, because Catherine and William are also doing a series of engagements on mental health, because yesterday, October 10th, was Mental Health Awareness Day, and Catherine and William did a series of engagements up in Birmingham regarding it. So take a listen to a little bit of this video here.
William and I continue to be inspired to see young people, like you all here today, leading this charge, being particularly brave and having some of those conversations yourselves. As a generation, you value and talk more about your mental health than any before you, something we truly admire and applaud. It is important, however, to remind ourselves of the big picture as we meet here today. What are we trying to improve by focusing our efforts on mental health?
And we also have Catherine and William doing different things today. Prince William went to Buckinghamshire, where he met with emergency responders for World Mental Health Day on October 11th. So Awareness Day, Health Day. So William went there. The Princess of Wales went to Nottingham Trent University. So they were separate. So I love that William was in Buckinghamshire, Catherine was in Nottingham. And I love that they started the event yesterday together. And now today they are doing their separate things, because William was an air ambulance responder, and Catherine obviously is very interested in young people and their mental health. That they can investigate both of these tracks, I think, is really important. I really did like Catherine's outfit today. Thank goodness we have a skirt. It's not a dress. I am a dress fan, but it was a skirt today. I thought it looked fabulous, and it's sort of a funny response to Meghan Markle's atrocious look in New York City yesterday. So go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of William's event here.
Who's been here the longest? Out of the...
I think Mari.
Yes. Have you always done the community side?
Yes, and always on the same area. So we get so involved. I've been invited to weddings and funerals and all sorts over the years, because we really are a big part of the community.
Grateful atmosphere for casualties, it's been a safer atmosphere for us. Yeah.
We've got more cutting
Was on the other side.
Yeah.
And we also have Catherine's event here, so go ahead and take a listen.
I would love to be a student again. I love my student days, but I'm not actually currently here. But I remember actually university for me was one of those great opportunities to try out new hobbies. So I love trying out new things, challenging myself. So yeah, whether it's sort of sports or music or art, and actually it's one of the things with my kids too, really just trying out new things. And university for me was when I learned to.
And now I know some of you will wonder, well, why don't I focus more on Catherine and William and doing all the videos about them? Well, there's sort of a simple answer to that, and that is the Royal Family channel, because they go to every event pretty much with Catherine and William and get all the video. And I could sign up and get a membership with the Press Association there in the UK and get videos from their events, but that's essentially what the Royal Family channel is doing. So I can't really compete with people who are actually there getting the videos and reporting from there. I just can't compete with that. So I figure I'll let them handle most of those aspects, because we really need to talk about Harry and Meghan here. Oh my gosh, yesterday in New York City, it was a complete and utter train wreck. especially Meghan's fashion. Of course, they have to address the reports in the Freedom of Information Act request, which revealed these emails showing Harry and Meghan were very demanding before they went to an impoverished elementary school. And so this time Harry and Meghan went to a different school, one for high schoolers, and Meghan Markle dressed as if she was going to a Friday night football game because she was in jeans, some sort of shirt, looked very much like the Invictus outfit she wore that was just the black tank top and the black jeans, very boring and basic, and a Letterman's jacket that she got from an English school before she left as a working royal. I thought this was so incredibly dumb. I'm like, what? Like, are you going to a football game? Harry looked fine, I thought, because he looked casual yet professional. Because this is the line you have to walk. And I think Catherine exhibits it beautifully. I've never seen Catherine go to an event where I thought, oh, she should have dressed up more, she should have dressed up less. Never ever thought that. I always feel like Catherine is impeccably put together for any occasion. And I understand that, yes, Meghan went to this high school and they gave her this Letterman's jacket in the UK for the debate team. But this school, I think, is a STEM school, a programming school. So why in the world is she wearing a debate Letterman's jacket to a school that does computer programming? I think that just doesn't really mesh. And I just thought it was incredibly dumb. And she looked like she was going to an after-school football game. I'm like, what are you wearing? Like, because it was too big. And I'm like, I guess Meghan Markle wants to revisit her high school days, I guess. But then we get to their afternoon event. And so this was with Project Healthy Minds. After looking through and pulling all the clips from Harry and Meghan's event, all I could think to myself is these two people want to play God. They do, because they were saying basically that they want to prevent any harm from coming to any child over social media. That's like wishing that no child gets childhood cancer. That's what it's like. You can't prevent that. That's impossible. That's impossible. And their whole premise is basically a gigantic control operation over social media and the internet. They want to control every aspect of it. And the analogies they were coming up with, the things they were saying, I was like, oh my gosh, these two people are insane. And the Surgeon General and Carson Daly were with them as well. And Carson Daly also wasn't making a ton of sense in a lot of ways, because these people must live in an alternative reality, which I'm not aware of. Because one of my favorite moments was in Carson Daly. It's like, well, you know, it's hard because some of our neighbors, it's like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, our neighbors' kids have access to social media. And what are we supposed to do if we say no? I'm sorry, did you not grow up in the United States? Did you not grow up like anywhere? Because families, all of them do things differently. I know some of my friends, they were allowed to do different things that I wasn't allowed to do. Like, take the movie of Titanic. I had to leave the theater for the inappropriate scenes. One of my friends, she got to choose whether or not she wanted to stay. We were like 10. She got to choose whether or not she wanted to stay. I can't remember what my other friend was allowed to do. I think she had to cover her eyes or something. Because parents should have the authority over what their kids do. Because you don't like something, that doesn't mean you get to force everyone else to abide by your directives. That's not freedom. That's control. That is dictatorship. Yes. Social media can be exceptionally bad. I work on social media. I know it 100%. You'd be surprised the nasty things people say sometimes over the stupidest things. You would be surprised. But you have to have a thick skin, and you have to either go, well, that person's crazy, or I just got to get over it. Something to that effect, because you have to be able to compartmentalize your life. And some people can't do that. And if you're somebody who can't do that, then you need to be off social media. You need to find another way to connect with people. Yes, social media is huge, but what was surprising as well is that Harry and Meghan were thinking social media is the only way people can connect with each other. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what happened to the last like 5,000, 6,000 years of human existence? Did we not talk to each other? Did we not form communities without this advent of social media? And of course, social media is a huge component of our life, and it won't go away. It'll evolve and everything like that. But when you listen to these clips, you can see there's an element of just absolute delusion and narcissism about their role in this and how this issue can actually be addressed. What the suggestions they were making, oftentimes, even the Surgeon General in some instances, were just plain lunacy. It couldn't work. And there's a very funny instance of Harry as well, where I was just like, dude, yeah, you don't, the social media companies were right about you, buddy. Harry and Meghan, I think, are coming into these social media companies, banging their drum, telling them what to do. And these companies are like, yeah, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. And now Harry and Meghan, because they have this platform, Harry and Meghan are utilizing those horrific moments in somebody else's life in order to pursue their own agenda, which is controlling social media so nobody says anything negative about Meghan Markle or Prince Harry. That's not what this platform is supposed to be about, and this is why they'll fail, and this is why this whole entire thing was pointless. It was absolutely pointless. And I'm going to show you guys how, because I watched a couple of different clips, and I pulled clips together because I was just like, the more I watched it, I was like, wow, these people are living in their own fantasy land. And it was disappointing in a lot of ways. So let's get into it.
They are three people that are using their platforms to create community with families across the country and across the world.
So that first instance, community with families across the country. But you notice, they can't create a community with their own family. They can't. They can't. So this is Carson Daly introducing them. And again, just the notion that these two people are trying to create community, they're not, because they're tearing down communities. They tore down the royal family, not only with the country, but with each other. And they damaged some of those relationships. And so this idea that Harry and Meghan can offer anything on a community level is nonsense.
They're also parents of children living in a digital age. Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and the United States Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy.
And you'll notice in this room as well is that it's a very small room. At most, I think there's probably about 30 to 40 people there. At most. It's very small. So I can see when I'm looking here at the video, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows back. And the camera's right there. And you can tell it's a small room. The ceiling's low. So it's not this big auditorium. It's a small confined space. And so Harry and Meghan make these grand proclamations, yet they're not talking to a big audience. And you'll hopefully notice something as well here. And I want to try to wait for it to the end, but I'll probably spoil it. But I'm going to try and see if you guys catch on to the big gaping hole in this whole thing, which makes the whole thing, again, pointless. There's no purpose to this whatsoever. And I gotta say, Meghan Markle, I'm so sorry, that is the most hideous thing. It does not fit you, it does not work. You need to be about 6 inches taller to wear that outfit, and you're not. And why in the world is Meghan Markle dressed like she's going to a cocktail dinner, a red carpet, and not like she's talking to family members grieving after their children have been harmed by social media? Harry's also in this very professional suit. I think it would have been perfectly fine given the time of day that he doesn't have a tie on, maybe the suit, but not the tie. And Meghan Markle, again, I don't know what she's wearing. I don't know where she's wearing. Because Catherine can pull it off. Catherine's outfit today, I thought it was professional, yet could almost be too casual, because ribbed can sometimes seem casual, but she totally pulled it off. Meghan Markle in this whatever thousands of dollars outfit could not pull it off. And as well, her hair is a mess. Her hair is like an absolute disaster of a mess again. And you'll notice in this interaction when they're first shaking hands that Meghan Markle, of course, she has to tap Carson Daly on the arm. She has to constantly touch people. It's very annoying.
Prince Harry, let's start with you. If you could just have a drink of water, please.
So that interaction where Harry is clearly nervous and drinking water, I thought was so exceptionally odd. When I saw that, I was like, what? I mean, I get it, odd things do happen, but I just thought that was really, really weird.
Thanks for starting with me. Thank you. I can't start without thanking all the parents, the mothers and fathers that have been here today for being with us physically here today, but also being on this journey for the last year, creating this community of shared experience.
They didn't share the experience with us, so the public. And again, it's just that weird, touchy-feely, too much therapy responses I feel like that Harry's giving here. His language is like our shared experiences and going on this journey together. And I was like, maybe, maybe not.
We've quickly realized that there was no one really in this space bringing them together. A huge part of this is to be working with Matthew and his team.
I'm sorry. So is Harry saying that nobody else on the face of the planet is working with parents who have lost their children? I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true in the slightest. Nobody else is working in this space. I don't think that's true. Here are a couple of organizations that work with parents who are experiencing grief, trauma, anything like that. I mean, just the notion that Harry and Meghan are the only organization working in this space is just delusional and a God complex. They have this savior God complex now, and it's aggravating, it's grating, and it doesn't work.
Ryan's sitting there, he's a chicken farmer, he's wearing ostrich boots, and he lives in the middle of nowhere. And yet as a parent, he's somehow expected to navigate his way around social media for his kids.
Does anybody else agree that what Harry said about Ryan was rather condescending? That because he lives in the middle of nowhere, he has no clue how to manage social media? I mean, a parent in a big city might not have any idea how to manage social media. He's literally saying because this guy is a country bumpkin, he has no clue how to manage social media. That is what Harry is saying. It's offensive, and I think it's wrong of Harry to make that assumption. I just think it's horribly in bad taste. But that's Harry and Meghan.
No other family anywhere has to go through what they've been through. It just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
But life isn't fair. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but life is not fair. People get cancer, people die in car accidents, plane accidents. There are such tragedies. People, sometimes completely seemingly healthy people, have massive brain aneurysms and pass away suddenly. Heart attacks, strokes. There's just so many things. This idea that life is fair is wrong. And I think it's a wrong message to send people. There's a great clip from Boy Meets World, and it's the older brother telling the younger brother. Corey is the younger brother. Is it Matthew? No, I feel like that's wrong. Eric. Eric is the older brother. And he's looking at his brother and he goes, life's tough, get a helmet. Smacks him on the forehead, basically. And it's like, yes, life is tough. And this idea that you can go around and go, well, life needs to be fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. You're not going to get everything you want out of life. You're not going to be immune from tragedy. You're not going to be immune from trauma or difficulties or something like that. And you have to accept that certain times life is not fair. Life doesn't give you everything you want out of it. Sometimes you have to fight for things. Sometimes you fight for things and they don't happen. That's just how to be a healthy adult. And Harry's delusional, well, it's not fair. Well, it isn't fair. Of course it's not. That's what life is. Life isn't fair. There was a woman I met, and I was actually in Africa. I was on an assignment, and her son, and I wish I'd asked her more, but I was very new at interviewing people. It was very scary. And this woman's son had, I believe if I remember correctly, he had fallen out of a tree and died, and he was a child. It's like, well, that's not fair. And many of the women I met in this very rural part of Africa probably did have children die who were under the age of 5. You know, they lived with the idea that one of their children would die. Life isn't fair, but it's how you deal with it, how you move on from those things that really makes the difference, I think.
Meghan, what was your reaction to the last hour?
Yeah, thank you for asking and also for being here with us.
I just thought that whole thing was, thank you for asking and for being here with us. It's like, well, the guy's a patron or part of the board of directors for Healthy Minds, Project Healthy Minds or whatever it is. And so it's like, well, yeah, he'd be there. He was at all the events basically during the day. And I'm sure Meghan was bummed that I can't ask my questions and answer my own questions. Though I'm sure he gave them a sheet beforehand with all the questions he was going to ask.
You know, a year ago when we met some of the families, not all of them, at that time, it was impossible to not be in tears, as I'm sure so many of you have been today hearing these stories. You can hear the stories again and again and again. It's still going to have the same emotional impact because it's just that devastating.
I don't know that, Meghan Markle. I don't know that. And that was the way I think you and Harry designed it.
There was an entry point that's supposed to be positive and creating community, and something has devolved, and there's no way to hear that and not try to help these families have their stories be heard.
So I want to point out something here is that Meghan's was like, well, there's a healthy way to enter social media. And there is, and there's a healthy avenue for social media. But I think her mistake there is saying, well, we're supposed to create our communities essentially on social media. And yes, we have a community here, and I think that's fantastic. But I hope as well, a bunch of people have communities within their communities. People you are actually conversing with, not just online, but in person. And yes, sometimes that's the only relationship you have is online, but that personal connection is more important than the connections that you make online in many instances. Yes, you can have fantastic friendships that develop online, but if you have just, let's say, online friends and not friends in person, that's sort of not exactly healthy. And I think this idea that our communities are all moving online is a dangerous notion, because our communities should be within our communities, especially our church communities, our family communities, our elementary school community, something. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I don't know any of my neighbors, but my grandparents who are in their 90s, they know all their neighbors. They talk to all their neighbors. There's very much this different thought of what community is in the older generations, but we've removed ourselves from communities somewhat and put them online instead. Whereas we really should be reaching out to the people we actually know, can actually talk to, and actually interact with on a daily basis, go to coffee with, go to dinner with, those sorts of things. Those people are more important than what happens online. And if you're creating communities entirely online, I just don't know if that's necessarily very healthy. It took me a while because I was like listening to it going, why did I pull this clip? I just thought throughout the whole thing, Harry looked exceptionally nervous, and he didn't instill a lot of confidence, I don't think. There were moments where he was more forceful, not in a bad way, but you could tell he was very passionate. But oftentimes as well, he looked very uncomfortable, very uncertain. And it's like, if I'm supposed to follow Harry, I want somebody who's standing up tall in their chair and who you feel like is a leader in this area. And I just don't think Harry is, because I think Harry's too blinded by his own emotions and his own emotional issues to actually be a leader in this space at all. I think he is so consumed with pleasing Meghan Markle that he's doing all this. Yes, he has a passion for it. Yes, I think he is interested in this space, but he's doing a lot of this because they had, quote unquote, such a bad experience working royals, and Harry doesn't know why it went so wrong, and so he's just desperately trying to fix it. And it's not fixable. What they went through is tragic in some ways, but was very much a self-created dilemma. They were the ones who created the difficult circumstances. And so I feel for Harry being uncomfortable, and I feel for him because I think he's struggling a lot, but it's a mess of his own making.
We were earlier today talking about MAD, an organization many of you may remember, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I know you remember.
Yeah, we were saying, we remember
the mom.
Yes, and the talks that come to school.
Yeah, it was
and
impactful.
Hugely.
Meghan was so excited to interrupt. I will say the Surgeon General talked a really long time. Harry and Meghan would talk for a while too, but it'd be about 5 minutes. I swear he talked for 10 or 15 minutes straight. And he's more knowledgeable than they are in a lot of respects, but at the same time, just listening to one, I mean, I guess people watch me and watch one person talk for a while, but I know oftentimes too, I'm sure people are doing other things as well. And I was like, go for it, do other things too. I multitask, I'm a multitasker. But I just thought Meghan was like so excited. Yes, I remember this, we talked about this. She was just so excited to have a moment to talk again.
My husband and I often say, if there's going to be so much focus on what we're doing, then to try to focus on what we're focusing on, because their stories are what matter.
So I think I forgot to record this section. I don't know why, but this is insane what Meghan is saying. She's going, well, there's all this attention on us. We want to put it on other people. But what are they not doing at this event? They're not putting the focus on other people because we don't see the other people. So how can they be putting the attention on them if we don't see them? We don't know their names. We don't hear their stories. So this doesn't work. This doesn't work when you can't hear the most emotionally impactful moments of this event.
And trying to safeguard so many other families from experiencing this level of pain.
So you're trying to prevent families from experiencing this level of pain? Are you God? Like, seriously. I don't think you guys can totally prevent that. I'm sorry to say. I know that bursts your bubble, but I really don't think you can prevent that. I'm so sorry, because human nature doesn't change, and there is always tragedy in our lives, and it's how we deal with it. Hopefully we prevent it. We work really hard to try to prevent it, but it will happen. No matter the best intentions, the best work, the best safeguards, all those things can still fail, unfortunately. But I don't think Harry and Meghan live in the land of reality.
Well, first of all, I think there's a reason why there's no one else working in this space, because of the size and the power of these companies. And I think people are scared and feel helpless. And I think we understand that.
You feel scared and helpless, Harry? People didn't like your wife and didn't like what you became after marrying your wife, that's not the same thing as a tragedy a family experiences if their child decides to harm themselves in some way because of social media. Those two things are not comparable. They're not. Oh my gosh. These two people, the savior complex, the delusions, the narcissism, it's tangible. You can feel it. I'm like, for Pete's sakes, guys, and the idea that they're the only people working in this space, I don't think so. And they're not doing this to help other people. They're doing this to help themselves. And so, yes, other people aren't going about it the same way as Harry and Meghan are, because other people actually live in the land of reality and know what they can do and what they cannot do within the realm of social media and social media management. And you'll get more here into Harry's lack of understanding of how companies actually operate. It's really quite startling.
Please stop sending children content that you wouldn't want your own children to see. And I think that's a very simple request, and it's an easy fix.
Harry knows nothing about programming. He knows nothing. It's an easy fix. How do you know? You barely graduated a high school. Most of these people not only have their BAs, their MAs, their PhDs, they know so much more about this space than your piddly mind could ever imagine. And yes, I do think sometimes the algorithms are designed to encourage bad things and encourage addictions. They are. But this idea that it's just a quick fix. You can just fix this one thing. You just fix this little code right here and it'll be fine. Harry knows nothing. He knows nothing about this space. It's not an easy fix. You know why? Because the internet is designed by humans. And human beings have been depraved for as long as we've been around. Sin has always existed. There's nothing new under the sun, as Ecclesiastes says. There is nothing new under the sun. So this idea that Harry has, that's a quick and easy fix, well, every bad thing that's on the internet right now is still going to exist on the internet. It's still going to exist. There's nothing you can do really to fix that. Yes, there are people on Facebook whose job it is, which is a terrible job, is to pull down terrible content, horrific violence, abuse, those sorts of things. And I think that is terrible, and those people need a lot of help to do that. But who's posting that? It's other human beings. You cannot fix humanity. And so, yes, the internet is a good thing, but it will be a bad thing because everything human beings create pretty much is bad and good because we're humans and we created it. And sometimes, yes, we're good, and sometimes we are also bad.
But if the shareholders of these companies can accept that they're going to get a little less profit out of it to make it a safe space, then that would stop the suffering.
No, Harry, that wouldn't. And yeah, no company is going to do that. That is stupid. That is a stupid, stupid notion. They are not going to amend their practices. Under your delusional belief is that they make the simple change that shareholders will be happy with making less profit. Are you not a shareholder in some companies, Harry? Would you be happy getting less money? Because you and Meghan, I'm sure, are spending things up the wazoo. You need money. You need to make money. And these people, I don't think are making money, really. I don't think they're really making money. So how in the world... You know, if Harry's not making money, he thinks everybody else should not make money too. That's not how life works, Harry. That's not how life works. Because the danger here too is, you know, Facebook, Twitter, X or whatever, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, and then you got YouTube, which is owned by Google, all these sorts of things. If you take out these ones, worse ones could come in. Doesn't necessarily guarantee if you make these ones sanitized and better, that another one won't pop up 2 steps later and is like, let's say Instagram, and does all the things Instagram does, and let's say offers pornography or something. That thing will probably blow up. Harry and Instagram will die. And then the company that Harry said, well, be sanitized. Don't allow any negativity things whatsoever. And if that thing dies, then a worse thing is created in its place because people want to make money, Harry. They're not like you and Meghan. They're living on an inheritance, hopefully some money comes down the line, and being royals. They actually have to make money.
When something is invented, let's take the car, for example. When the car was first invented, there wasn't a seatbelt. You could smoke inside of your car.
Meghan's analogy about the car is so stupid because the internet and the car are not comparable. to be honest, there's really nothing like the internet. It's never really existed in human history, this ability to transfer mass quantities of information. Actually, you could say perhaps the first big explosion in terms of conversing and information is the printing press. The invention of the printing press changed the world. It changed the world because you could print the Bible quickly, information quickly, you could print pamphlets, all sorts of things. And then being able to print it in a language people could understand, the vernacular, that changed the course of history. And her equating safety features on the internet, which she does, which is a car. I'm sorry, how are you supposed to put your seatbelt on in the internet? A car is an inanimate object. It has no right or wrong because it is a person behind the wheel. The person is the factor there, is the X factor. On the internet, it's the same thing. Human beings are the X factor, but because it's all information we create and generate, to make that analogy right, you would have to basically strip all human beings out of the internet and make it an inanimate object. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because the internet really is the hub of human imagination and depravity in a lot of ways. They go hand in hand. There are great things in the internet and there's bad things in the internet, but it's not a car. It is not a car. This analogy is stupid. It is stupid. It's dumb. It doesn't make sense.
And what happened? People started to get hurt. People started to die. So you started to change the car. You would put in safeguards so that this new piece of something that is part of our evolution is adapting to keep people safe.
The internet is not that, Meghan Markle. This is a stupid analogy. You really need to drop it. And I think too, she was expecting probably a round of applause and like, oh, that's so brilliant. But no, Harry gets the spontaneous applause. And it's also for something kind of dumb.
But again, it's the pushback is, well, you know, you don't really understand.
Yeah, Harry, you don't understand. These companies all think you're adult. When you're coming in and going, well, you just need to change this and it'll be fine. And they're like, do you know anything about code? And Harry's like, no. It's like, no? What are you telling us?
So how can we understand when you're not being transparent?
You saw Harry, he got puffed up when the audience applauded for him over that. But here's the thing. What Harry's asking for is transparency from these companies. So he wants to know how they create their algorithms. Those are trade secrets, Prince Harry. Those are what we call trade secrets. Google doesn't even tell you, because I actually worked somewhat in, not in the programming space at all, but in the SEO space, search engine optimization, optimizing the content you're creating to get as many views as possible on Google, because you're hitting what people are searching for. Google does not tell you what are the most common searches really. They don't. They actually hide a lot of their information in terms of what people are searching and querying. And yes, Google does manipulate what comes up on your front page. It 100% does. But I understand as well, Google's like, Prince Harry's like, well, just be transparent. Tell me how your algorithm works. And they're like, we have the #1 search engine in the world. If we tell everybody how our algorithm works, guess what? Everybody else is going to steal our algorithm or steal parts of it, and they're going to create something that competes with us. So what are you talking about, Prince? I mean, he's such a dolt. It's staggering, because this is just such a stupid suggestion. It's so stupid. And the audience applauds it, and I understand. They're like, well, just be transparent. Yeah, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them, if they reveal their secrets, their trademarks and everything, the companies become worthless. So I guess Harry is telling everybody to be as money deprived as he is, I guess? I don't know.
The other thing that we can do is we can require transparency from these companies in terms of their data. And get a little bit, not all of it. As a parent, I don't want to feel like a company is hiding information from me about the product that my child is using. Like, why is that okay? So the analogy here that the Surgeon General goes into is like, well, we know about the car seats we use, we know about the toys and everything. There's transparency there. And I'm like, yeah, because that's a physical, tangible product. And the burden really here, and I hate to say it because I know this is a big challenge for parents, the burden is on parents here. And parents should have the right to choose whether or not their kid is on social media. And if it's scary for you for your kid to be on social media,
I don't know. Unfortunately here, there's just not a good answer. The good answer is to probably just not have them access it at all. Can you totally prevent that? No. How do you, a lot of their friends are on it, yes, but how do you manage it so that they have a community where they don't have to rely on the internet to create it? Yes, it is there, but how do you help your kids live like 90s kids? Essentially the thing, or 80s kids or something like that, where you don't have all this advent of technology, where you're constantly on your phone on social media. I mean, on social media probably too much, but I do it for my job, so I kind of feel like I got to. But this idea here, again, is censorship control. They're wanting companies to control what we do and do not have access to, when sometimes that is a personal accountability issue, and it's not comparable to an actual physical product. Because here's the thing too, is that if a car seat fails, that's something that the company has to fix and everybody needs to know about. But when it comes to the internet, I think some people can see the negativity and move past it and be okay. Some people, it hurts them for a while, but they sort of can navigate it. And there's some people where it's crippling for them, because this is not just a simple product. This is a complicated thing where the mind of the individual person also has a factor here. You as a parent need to figure out, can my child handle social media? Do they get negative feedback and are just a puddle on the floor, unable to function? Or do they get negative feedback, they have a moment where they're just like, oh, and then they try to strive ahead. That's sort of me. I can have a moment where I'm like, oh, you know, you get the negative feedback or something happens and you do wallow for like, you know, a day or a week or something. But then you have to move on. I've had those experiences, but that's just part of my personality. If that's not your personality, if you were devastated by things people say on social media, you probably shouldn't be on social media. That's just an honest truth there. And so again, this idea that it should be on the companies to control is a gateway to massive censorship and controlling the information that flows. And that's an epic, epic danger.
And just as much as these platforms, these devices are, you know, super addictable and very important for a lot of kids to communicate with other kids, especially when they need support.
And again, I think we've gone away from the traditional aspects of community. I grew up in church, and so we had a church community. A lot of my friends went to the same church. I had a group of church friends and I had a group of school friends. And yes, our parents did things differently. Certain kids were allowed to do stuff I wasn't allowed to do. You know, we didn't cuss in our home, and so, but other kids, that might have been more common. Honestly, I was raised in a pretty great community, so that I really didn't hear a curse word from another kid until I was like in 5th grade, which is pretty good compared to what my sister experiences sometimes as a teacher. So if you want to protect your children, you want your children to be raised in a strong community, I think oftentimes, not always, there's always exceptions to the rule, but that's probably a lot of times in the faith community in some way, or that might be in your school community if you have a really positive school community, or a community of friends. Let's say you guys all met in college and you ended up having kids pretty much at the same time. That's another community. You need to create actual communities with people you know and not just online. If you're creating just online communities, I think you will be disappointed, and it is less filling than an actual personal community.
So we have to do more at the entry point, whether there's a induction process or whether there's a licensing. I mean, Germany's fantastic at licensing pretty much everything in life, and you know, some people will be against that and some people will be for it.
Yeah, Harry, people would be against that because that is called censorship and that is called a government control operation. So a lot of people in America don't like that. German people, they like their bureaucracy, and so maybe that's fine for them, but in the United States, don't tread on me. That's a sort of a famous colonial flag. Don't tread on our rights here, Prince Harry. Yes, I know you want to live in your own little dictatorship, but we don't want to, and we don't want to experience that.
If your 2 kids' mental, where is that now on a priority list? Not as a kick-ass woman, but as a mom. Excuse my French.
Thank you.
Oh, she was so excited with Carson Daly's portrayal of her. Thrilled. That thrilled her to death.
Being a mom is the most important thing in my entire life. And outside, of course, being a wife to this one.
I thought that was super awkward. You could almost feel her wanting to go on, and she's like, oh, wait, I do have Harry. I do have this guy over here. Oh, I guess I need to go. And this one, too. You could just feel her going, oh, yeah, I guess I gotta mention him as well. And he did have a little smile on his face after that, but again, it was just very awkward, I thought. So we've listened to the clips. Obviously, you can listen to the full thing online if you want to, 100% your call there. But you'll notice something. Did you catch it? What did we miss throughout this whole thing? It's the parents who've experienced the trauma. We didn't hear from the parents. We didn't hear from actual parents who have experienced trauma in this area. So Harry and Meghan talking about, well, so-and-so experienced, these stories are so tragic. How do I know Harry and Meghan? I don't know. Why? Because the only voice you would allow in that room is yourselves. If the parents didn't want their public profiles known, that's fine. You should have gotten different people to speak. Because this event is pointless. The 20 people, 30 people in that room, even the news outlets, I searched the news outlets, none of them were talking about what the parents said. So, like, just the whole aspect of this is like, if you want things to change, if you want people to be moved by the stories, you actually need to tell us the stories. Not telling us the stories is, number one, is just stupid on its face of it. It's stupid. It makes this event utterly pointless. And not to take anything away from those parents. I want to hear from them. I'm more interested in hearing from them than Harry and Meghan, who have children who are not on social media yet. It's like somebody who's been married a year trying to hold a seminar on marriage. You can't do that. You've been married a year. Let me know when you've gone through trauma as a couple. Let me know when you've gone through sad experiences as a couple. Let us know those difficulties you've gone through. Because then when you get to 50, 60, 70 years, like 70 years like my grandparents, then you can talk about marriage. But if you haven't been there, it's more difficult to talk about. Not that it's impossible, because I think there's things we can glean from relationships and things that we haven't experienced as lessons that we can learn. But Harry and Meghan's whole premise on this event was, you need to change social media to abide by our wishes. And look, these are the parents who are the example. But you didn't give us the parents. And because of that, what you're saying is meaningless. It's meaningless because you're basing it on an entire premise of people talking who we haven't been able to talk to. So in my world, I'm a historian. I'm actually going to grad school. I actually need to work my paper. I'm really behind on it. But I'm going to grad school working on my PhD. And there's something called primary and secondary sources. Primary sources are sources written by people who lived during that time period. Secondary sources are usually historians, sometimes just decent authors who have researched this time period, sometimes utilizing the primary sources and coming to conclusions. There's no secondary sources without the primary sources. And what good historians do is they have this huge section in the back of the book where you can go back through and you can look at all their sources. Let me try to pull a book here that might be a good example. Okay. So this one's probably not perfect, but this is Richard I. It is actually part of the Yale English monarchy. So number one, I know this is a good source, not all the time, but a lot of times, because I think this was published years ago now. We can't always trust our academic institutions anymore, but this one was published in 1999. It was part of the Yale, so we know a historian wrote it, which is important. And it's not a ton, but these are the bibliographies. So he has primary sources all listed. So you can go through and you can find. And then he has secondary works. And primary sources in this time period would be somewhat limited, so it's not a surprise. He doesn't have a ton. There's actually some biographies downstairs I have where like it's 100 pages of notes, 100 pages in the published book. That's already like 400, 500 pages. So these are incredibly important though. And it also has all these notes in the footnotes as well. So you can go back through and like, look, that's half the page. Why is that important? It's important because you need to be able to go back to the primary sources and see how the author made their conclusions. I don't know how Harry and Meghan made their conclusions based off the testimony of people, because they don't allow us to hear the testimonies of these families. And because of that, it becomes an event all about Harry and Meghan. And so all I can glean is that the whole purpose of this was for Harry and Meghan to talk about themselves and their experiences. That's all it was, is to talk about themselves, their experiences, and their desires for a Harry and Meghan approved world. That is what this conference was about, because they didn't allow us to look at the primary sources. We couldn't listen to the families and go, okay, I see where Harry's conclusion here about basically having this induction process in social media, how that would work. I have no idea. How can I understand this induction process Harry is talking about if I don't know what instigated his induction process delusion? I don't know. And so this is critical for Harry and Meghan, is that if they want people to follow them, they need to actually give them something tangible, and they didn't here. This is all about Harry and Meghan. This whole thing, it was entirely about Harry and Meghan, their wants, their desires, their needs, and their frustrations that the rest of the world does not see them as great as they are. They don't see Harry and Meghan as the savior of humanity as they believe themselves to be. I'm sorry, the savior of humanity died 2,000 years ago and was raised from the dead, so it's not you guys. It's not you. So Harry and Meghan need to get off their high horse here, live in the land of reality, and actually get to the heart of the issues, which is people interacting with other people. That's what's going on here, because yes, there are bots that do things as well, but it's oftentimes humans that can be quite as nasty, which we've seen, unfortunately, on full display this week. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Harry and Meghan's craziness here. I was just, these two people, they are just so in their own bubble. They really, really need a little bit of connection with reality here. So guys, let me know, again, your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching. And be kind in the comments to each other. Let's create a good community here. Yes, have your community at home, but be good social media warriors as well. So guys, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.